I'm doing this my way. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and we've got another video for you about the summer split. We are going to go to the LEC. Just let me get that up on the screen. And we're going to talk about every team. We're going to talk about the best players from these teams. Before I get started, there are three teams that I'm not going to talk about very much. And that is Team BDS, Astralis, and SK Gaming. The reason why I'm not going to spend much time talking about those teams is because their rosters are not good enough to be competitive in the playoffs of the LEC. If any of those three teams goes far in the playoffs, I would be completely shocked. I don't like their rosters. I don't think that they're building for now, or I don't think that they're going to be competitive now, and I don't really think that they're going to be anything special in the future. Nuclear Int will have to turn into something great for Team BDS to turn into something in the future. They got rid of Adam. I'm fine with that. The guy was kind of a psychopath, but still probably a better player than Aggressivo. For Astralis, bring in Vizicachi. Vizicachi and Xerxes aren't going to do anything. Dajor, I don't think, is going to be a good player long term. They have a new support. Jung-hoon, I think is how you say his name. I just don't see them being competitive. If they are, great for them. I would love to see Vizicachi and Xerxes be successful. It'd be a cool story. I don't expect that to happen. Then we have SK Gaming, bringing back their roster from last split. I think this will kind of confirm that Genax is not going to be a difference maker in the top lane for a championship team. Gilius is probably done, or is just going to run it back on this type level of team in the future, because he will ultimately hold the team back. And then Shreets, it's kind of the same thing. Could you build a team around Certus and Jezu? Maybe, probably not. What this means is that in the future, if they are a very successful team, they'll probably find a very good jungler or a very good top laner to be the true carry of the team, and then have those two kind of playing as, not supports, but not the primary carry of the team, which is a completely legitimate way to play League of Legends. It's just, that's how it would have to kind of turn out. So next up, let's talk about XL. So XL didn't really... they had a pretty good summer split. I don't think that they have much of an upside in this team. I do like Patrick. I do like Marcoon. Mickey is a pretty good player. Nuke Duck will hold them back long term. He had a very good split last year relative to expectations. I didn't expect Nuke Duck to play even close to that. But it was made a lot more simple because Aphelios and Jinx had such a stranglehold on the meta that was really the focal point of the draft, and then the rest of the champions on the teams had to kind of work around that trade. And that gave Nuke Duck a lot of great opportunities to play champions that he's good at. It's just he was still really never the playmaker that there are other mid laners who are just better playmakers than him. But he can pump out damage in a late game team fight if he's even or ahead. Like, if that's what you want in a mid laner, then good for you. I just don't see why you'd want Nuke Duck if you're trying to be competitive for the European Championship. And Finn was actually pretty good last split as well, but I don't see this team going much further, and I don't think that this meta is necessarily going to be more beneficial. A team like XL really had to kind of go all in because it was a Jinx Aphelios meta. I think that's probably the best scenario for a player like Patrick, which is a good thing. It's not a criticism of Patrick at all. I think that kind of meta really shows me which AD carries play the game the way that I like them to play the game, which they don't have to do that. It's just that's my preference. We all have preferences, stylistic preferences. So next up, let's go to Mad Lions before we go to the other teams that are left. So first up, we have Mad Lions. Armut, Elyoya, Unforgiven, Kaiser, and now they have Niski. So it's very possible that Niski is a very good change for the team. Not because I think he is a more talented player than the previous mid laner, but stylistically, he could fit better with Elyoya. That would not surprise me at all. When Mad Lions were successful, they had Humanoid. Niski is a lesser version of Humanoid. If the champion pool is like Galio, TF, supportive mid laners, then Niski's going to do okay. If you need him to be the carry of your team and like Elyoya is playing a tank for some reason, then I think that team is going to fail. So if you get into a playoff series where that is kind of the meta that we're living in, then you want to bet against Mad Lions, in my opinion. Elyoya is the best player on this team. He gives them the upside of, pushing for a championship. I don't think he's the best jungler in the LEC, but he is one of the best junglers in the LEC. He's definitely above average. And I've given him a lot of garbage, but in reality I've really kind of been more critical of his fans than him specifically. A good carry jungler, that's his role. If you can build a team around a carry jungler, then Mad Lions will be successful. At plus 1400, that's pretty interesting to me. I would definitely rather bet Mad Lions than our next team, Misfits. So Misfits are going from Hyrit to Irrelevant. I don't know anything about the reasoning behind this move. I think Hyrit had a great split last split. Then you have Schlatan. Schlatan is a Lee Sin one trick. It was easily exposed in the playoffs, and this will be the split that makes or breaks Schlatan. If he's able to expand his champion pool, his team doesn't feel restricted in the draft, then he can take a step forward, be a good jungler. We've seen him do well in things like EU Masters, and he had a pretty good split in the LEC. But in order for him to be like a next level player, he really needs to expand that champion pool and to not be singled out in drafts as easily. Vetio had a very good split last split. That's a pretty exciting player to watch. And then Neon and Mursa played well last split. Neon was given a ton of Jinx, I believe, and had a super high win rate, which is cool. It's just your win rate is inflated when you're getting the better side of drafts. You can argue with me whether or not being on the Jinx side of that last meta was beneficial, or if you'd rather play the counter side. But I think that the numbers really support the idea that Jinx was the best champion last split, and if you were drafting around it, you were doing well. And if you weren't drafting around it, you probably weren't doing well. So Misfits at plus 1200. I'm not going to touch that because there are huge question marks around Schlatan, and then also Irrelevant. Can Irrelevant play to the level that Hyrit did? I have no idea. I don't know anything about this guy. So that makes me want to stay off. If you know something about him and you like him, then go ahead. You put your money on him. I'm not going to do that. Next up, we have Vitality. And Vitality, I think that this is one of the worst decisions that they could have possibly made. They're going from Self-Made to Haro, and they also have Bo as a substitute jungler, I think. So basically, Bo is one of the guys who is found to be match fixing in China. I don't know how you can put a guy like that on your team ever without fearing that he's going to be like exposing information from your team or literally throwing games. He was proven to be a match fixer. So I don't know how you can kind of support him being on a team. He is a very, very, very good jungler. I think that he is definitely better than Haru, and he's probably better than Self-Made. But I don't know how a general manager of an organization could feel comfortable with him on the team, knowing that he's always a couple phone calls away from fixing a match. And maybe that's not fair of me. Maybe he learned his lesson and it will never happen again. But that's a tough situation, and you don't have to answer that question with almost any other player in League of Legends. So you still have Alfari, very good player. Self-Made was really made the scapegoat for the struggles from last season. I don't see how that was really the case. A lot of the drafts were just horrible, and they forced the team to play a hyper-aggressive style. Maybe you can say part of that was Self-Made. I doubt it was all on Self-Made. It was probably more of a team effort. If Haru is a better if he's like a river style jungler, where he's basically giving away additional resources, plays a gank-heavy style where he's not worried about farming, he's going to allocate more resources to his teammates, play around his teammates, then maybe that's a better fit. It could be a situation like with Mad Lions in the mid lane. Like maybe that shift in a player, even if it's not as good of a player or a different style of player, that could be the thing that kind of makes the team blend together better. I'd be surprised if it did happen that way. I'm surprised that Selfmade isn't on another team already. If I was a team in the LCS, I would instantly try to grab Selfmade. I think that he's one of the best junglers in the LEC. It just didn't work out with this roster. And at plus 600, I don't want to bet it at plus 600. The best case scenario for me is that Vitality comes out of the gate, loses. Actually, plus 600. Maybe I need to run the numbers on this. I'm going to ask some people that are better at math than I am to try to figure out what this kind of implies from a playoffs perspective. Like how far does this say that they're going to get in the playoffs, and what is their semifinal matchup going to look like? Because I would be surprised if they didn't make semifinals during playoffs. But I'll have to take a closer look at that in a separate video. Next up, we have G2. And I got so much garbage during MSI because of the G2 EG stuff I was talking about. I really don't think G2 is that good. And neither does the Sportsbook. The Sportsbook has Rogue and Fnatic ranked higher than them. So G2 is at plus 250. That means that they win the league about 28.57% of the time. Whereas Rogue and Fnatic would win closer to 31% of the time. I think that shows Vitality is undervalued right now in the market. I think that you can really kind of say that worst case scenario, Vitality should be at 20%. So maybe that's the kind of the number that I would be comfortable betting it down to is to 20%. I don't think it's going to go closer to 1,000. I think it'll be kind of static right where it is. But G2, Broken Blade, Jankos, Caps, Flock, and Targamas, they're not changing their roster. They did a good job. I think that in a lot of these drafts, they got the better side of drafts pretty often in MSI. That speaks volumes about Dylan Falco's ability as a coach and also the flexibility of their players. Caps, Champion Ocean, Broken Blade, Champion Ocean, Jankos, Champion Ocean, but is not a great carry player. And the reason I say that is because, like, yes, he can play Graves against T1 or against RNG, but does he really make his team that much better when he's playing Graves as opposed to playing like a jungler that is about helping his teammates instead? I really think that's the best version of Jankos, which isn't me throwing shade towards Jankos. It's just stylistically, that's his best way to play the game. Caps is the best player on the team, obviously. Caps is great. One of the all-time greats. And they'll go as far as he can take them. I would be surprised if G2... I would be shocked if G2 won the summer split. I think that G2, Misfits, and Mad Lions are going to be the three teams competing for that last world spot. Or actually, it might only be 3 spots. I'm not sure how many spots the LEC gets. But I think that G2 belongs 3rd, 4th, 5th. Like, that's the area that I expect them to end up in. Let's go to Fnatic. Fnatic, a.k.a. the Fighting Yamato Cannons. Wonder, Razork, Humanoid, Upset, Hylissang. 5 strong players. Wonder, good enough in the top lane. I think he's probably a top 3 or 4 top laner still. Stylistically, you don't really want him playing the carry side of most of these matchups against elite teams around the world, but he can get away with it in Europe. But there's levels out there that he just can't reach. Razork, he had a pretty good last split. I think it was on the better end of outcomes for him. Has a good partnership with Humanoid. Humanoid can play the supportive style as well, so this could be a great meta for him if he's able to play Galio, able to play Twisted Fate, LeBlanc, stuff like that. If that's the meta that we're in right now, then that'll be very good for Humanoid. He will look like a very good player, but if you put that style of team up against RNG, up against T1, they are not going to be able to play that style to the level you need to in order to consistently win that matchup, meaning they will be an underdog against the best teams from Korea and the best teams from China. Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's always going to be like an underdog in these matchups at Worlds. But to think that it's anything other than that, or talking about them as if they're like a great team, like they can't be a great team if they're definite dogs against other teams from different regions in my mind. That's just the way that I look at it. But they should be very competitive and a very good team for summer in Europe. And again, they're a team that you'd be shocked if they didn't make semifinals. And then last but not least, we have Rogue. And Rogue, in my mind, really underperformed in playoffs. Odoamne, Malrong, Larson, Comp, Trimby. Trimby had a really good split last split. I know a lot of the people that I bring on the channel are super high on him and love Trimby. Totally understand that. Odoamne had a really good split last split. I'm not sure he can perform at that level again. Malrong had a good split, more of a gank heavy jungler. Let's see how that plays out in this upcoming meta. It'll probably be very good for Malrong, especially if tanks exist in the jungle. I think that could be very beneficial for him. I could see him being like an amazing Zac player, for example. I think that a lot of things that make Jarvan players good Jarvan players would also translate to a Zac. Larson, Comp, Trimby, just flexible players. Comp, I think that Comp, I don't think that he did a great job in the last utility AD carry meta. So that might be a concern that we should take a look at later on. But that's basically it for this video. We ran through all the teams and their current odds to win the summer split. You know, if you feel very different than I do, or you think that one of these teams is like a 50-50, like if you think that they definitely make the finals, then you should probably bet on one of these teams. But, you know, you probably won't. And that's fine. Summer's going to begin, I think, on the 17th. Super excited for that. It's about 9 days away, so a week and a half, and we'll have a bunch of League of Legends going on, which is a really fun time of the summer. Golf's in full swing. Baseball's in full swing. Esports are in full swing. Great time of summer. So that's all I've got for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.